In the game of Grand Theft Auto 3, there are 73 missions to complete, 48 of which are story missions, but out of the 48 story missions, 32 of them are required for beating the main story. According to howlongtobeat.com, users have taken almost 14.5 hours to complete the main story. So then, how in the hell is it possible to beat the game in under an hour? In my previous videos, I detailed the story of how the best GTA speedrunners in the world came together to make the most unimaginable run in the game's history happen. I also made it about me. But the question still remains, how? How do we go from watching compilations of Adam AK getting ultra copped to being able to jump across another island? This is GTA 3 90% explained. When coming out of the Give Me Liberty cutscene, we perform my very first trick. This is a mega enter. This trick is used to partially skip the animation of entering a vehicle with the use of replays, which in turn makes entering vehicles faster. This also works when entering a vehicle that already has a driver present, called the Mega Jack. Another thing that makes entering vehicles faster is sounding the horn. When sounding the horn entering a vehicle, Claude doesn't close the door. Console players may already be familiar with this, as you only need to hold the acceleration button to immediately start the car. This minor yet prominent strat is present in all the games in the 3D trilogy. One of the most noticeable differences between GTA 3 and Vice City is that one game allows you to jump out of a moving vehicle. GTA 3 doesn't have such a feature, but allows you to make an immediate exit when your car comes to a full stop if you press the enter vehicle key at low speeds. This makes it possible for us to exit our vehicles in cutscenes where Claude doesn't normally do it on his own. While we're on the topic of doors, doors are the enemy. We will try to get rid of our car door whenever we get the chance to, as it guarantees the quickest way of entering a vehicle. In the case of Give Me Liberty, Claude not only gets out of the car right away, but doesn't have a door to open or close. In San Andreas, you can drive into a marker and the marker will stop you most of the time. Once again, GTA 3 doesn't have such a feature, but you immediately stop in markers by pausing the game. When pausing the game, car speeds are set to 0, which is something that is needed to help activate mission markers. But before moving on, let's get the most infamous trick out of the way. Runners will repeatedly switch the camera for a few reasons. It despawns traffic in front of them, it despawns pedestrians, or they accidentally switch the wrong camera while switching cameras. It is possible to stay in a top-down view and have no traffic spawn, but it requires cars to reach a certain top speed. A speed which not many cars in Portland can reach without having traffic spawn anyway. When coming out of Luigi's Club, we want to look for a taxi. We will get back to what this is used for in a second, but something that you will see often is us running into a corner. No, we are not putting ourselves in timeout for the dirty cheaters that we are. We're saving a replay over where a rampage will be. A quick rundown on the replay system. It's a PC exclusive feature that allows players to replay the last few moments of gameplay. You may have seen this used somewhere. Pressing F1 will play the last 30 seconds or so of gameplay, pressing F2 will save a replay, and pressing F3 will play a replay that we have already saved. One of the unintended mechanics of replays is being able to remotely activate pickups. Despite me being on a completely different island, I can pick up a rampage that I would normally do in Portland in Shoreside Vale. This is a fundamental strat that allows us to breeze through Portland in this category. After completing Luigi's Girls, we will look behind ourselves and enter the next mission, Don't Spank My Bitch Up. Experienced players may already be familiar with this old trick of using the taxi mission with any vehicle of their choosing. We are carrying the activation of Taxi Driver all throughout this mission. This is done by having Look Behind and the submission actions bound to this same key. In this case, we aren't interested in starting Taxi Driver to start taxi missions, but rather to manipulate something called the On Mission flag. Understanding the On Mission flag is pretty simple. On a mission 0 means that we are not on a mission, which means that missions are open to us and we can enter them whenever we choose to. On mission 1 means that we are on a mission, which means that we can't enter another mission once we've already started one. When starting a Taxi Driver side mission, the on mission flag is set to 1. No missions are available to enter. But when we cancel Taxi Driver by pressing submission, the on mission flag is set to 0 and now we can enter missions again. Rampages are challenges that instruct us to kill certain enemies or destroy vehicles within 2 minutes. When starting a rampage, the on-mission flag is set to 1, and you get the idea. The difference between entering a side mission like Taxi Driver and starting a rampage is that you're able to cancel Taxi Driver whenever you want. When on a rampage, you can only end a rampage once you've completed it or failed it. Once we complete Don't Spank My Bitch Up, we immediately play a replay of us picking up a rampage to start it. Then we let go of the submission key to start taxi driver. Both of these actions tell the game that we are on a mission, but when we are not in a vehicle, which is something that the game would expect of us if we're going to start a taxi mission, taxi driver immediately cancels. And now we are on a rampage while also being able to start missions. The purpose of this we will visit later, but right now we need a cop car. The cop car is parked in front of this police station have a 60% and 70% chance of being locked respectively. Instead of taking our chances with these parked cars, we do something else. This is where we perform our very first mega jump. To put simply, in combination of shooting, punching, or jumping, we can use replays to shoot ourselves forward at absurd speeds. This trick is used sparingly, however, as it is extremely easy to unintentionally die while doing this. Luckily, there is a wall that stops us and prevents us from dying. We will then scan the area for a police officer or a police car. Blowing up a police car or killing an officer will grant us a 2-star wanted level, which will nearly always summon a squad car. We then step into this blue icon, which is normally collected when we first die. We will utilize death worthing quite a bit during the run, so it's important to collect this early so we don't have to sit through the in-game tutorial when we first die. Collecting this icon, however, will despawn everything in range, which is why we shoot the officers before entering. Once we obtain a cop car, we kill an officer for his pistol for a later on mission and drive to drive Misty for me. It's important that everything here happens within a certain amount of time because we need to have the rampage running after we finish this mission. When sounding the horn for Misty, we exit our vehicle since she runs towards Claude whenever she is outside of a vehicle. We will then drive to a specific location and create a replay where a rampage is. After passing the mission, we immediately enter our cop car to start Vigilante and wait for the rampage end. This will start the next mission, Mike Lip's Last Lunch, but will quickly end and start the mission after Farewell Chunky Lee Chong. Mike Lip's Last Lunch was Instapassed. Instapassing, in short, is when a position of one part of a mission script, when replaced with another mission script, lands on the instructions to pass a mission. Seeing what missions can be instapassed is very nuanced and requires a few stars to be aligned just right. My good friend Zaza made a video explaining this in great detail. He also has a series that explains a lot of GTA tricks at a very technical level. I highly recommend giving it a watch. In the very final moments of the rampage, if we play a replay at the very last frame, it will allow us to keep the weapon and the ammo from the rampage, and it gives us a lot of ammo, 30k worth. This will make killing the target of the next mission slightly easier and faster than using the pistol. It's not likely that we get this ammo every time as it's frame perfect, so we still get the pistol anyway. If you're familiar with the mission van heist, we need to damage a secure car enough for the driver and passenger to exit. This van is bulletproof, but is not explosion proof. So, we park our car perpendicular to the van while leaving a little bit of space and quickly blow up our car. We use the shotgun ammo that's given to us whenever we first enter a cop car. It's important to get this just right as being too close will destroy the van and fail the mission, and being too far away will not damage the van enough for the occupants to get out. On our way to the garage, we tried to ram the taxi from Don't Spank My Bitch Up so that it's closer to us when we finish the mission. We want to enter the next mission while on a rampage. Similar to holding taxi throughout Don't Spank My Bitch Up, we will hold taxi, play a replay of us during Drive Misty for Me where there is now a rampage, and eventually cancel the taxi's side mission to enter Cipriano's chauffeur. The timing of this is important as we need to complete this mission normally, make a replay over another rampage, and make it back to Tony's at a very specific time. The reasoning for this is to enter the next mission taking out the laundry and being able to enter it again before the rampage timer runs out. Then we die via mega jump, and miraculously the mission passes. This is called a dupe and fail. Whenever a mission ends, there is a cleanup part of the script that clears anything that is associated with the mission. In the instance of taking out the laundry, it's the vans that are roaming around the city. If you were to die before destroying all of the vans, it would make sense that these vans would disappear upon death as you would fail the mission and need to try again. However, the objective of this mission is to destroy the vans. With two instances running at once, when we die right away, one instance of the mission fails because dying fails the mission. But the cleanup part of the script removes all vans, and since that is what's needed to pass the mission, the other instance passes. This won't be the last time this method is used during the run. Once we respawn, we will need to look for a taxi right away. Much like earlier when we used Vigilante to instapass Mike Lip's Last Lunch, we will use Taxi Driver to instapass a subsequent mission, Salvatore's Call to Meeting. But before we can do that, we need to complete the pickup. We taxi start an M16 rampage and enter the pickup. We will then do a series of precise mega jumps to make our way to a fire truck. Once we are in the fire truck, we will create something called a 0-frame replay. While creating a replay and ending it on the next possible frame, playing it back will present a blue splash screen. This is the same blue screen that is present when entering another island. Having this blue screen present while playing replays makes the frame perfect trick of getting 30k ammo easier. As mentioned before, if you play a replay on the exact frame a rampage ends, it will allow us to keep the weapon and the ammo. Once we are done with the pickup, we will then begin the setup for the Salvatore's Call to Meeting Instapass, humorously known as Scam IP. We will enter the fire truck, hold submission, and enter the mission marker. We then let go of firefighter to cancel scam and enter taxi to start taxi driver, but also hold the submission key. And then we wait for the rampage timer to run out. The purpose of this convoluted setup is to enter scam with taxi driver running while actively holding it. As we discussed before, starting a side mission like taxi driver puts you on mission 1, which means that we cannot enter other missions while in that state because we're supposed to be on one mission at a time. You may be asking, well, if that's the case, why not just do the taxi part only and wait for the rampage timer to run out? Well, in order to make this Instapass work without crashing, you have to enter the mission at least once before. When we enter the mission with firefighter and cancel it right away, we fulfill that requirement. And when we cancel firefighter, we also cancel the mission scam altogether, so we don't need to fail the mission through the traditional means like dying. When performing this Instapass this way, we have the fortunate effect of warping right to the start of the next mission, Chaperone. The first half of Chaperone is fairly straightforward. After the police are called, we have to wait for Maria to make her exit out of the warehouse. There is a fixed amount of people who come out and it's the same pet models every time. If we have the M16 from Scam IP, we can shoot the partygoers in a line, saving a handful of seconds. During cutting the grass, we start with a cheeky mega jump over this fixed taxi spawn, but we have to step down before lining ourselves up to spawn the taxi in the first place. We then make our way to the train tracks on the right side of the tracks to save a grenade rampage replay. This all happens fairly quick so we can position ourselves in front of Luigi's Club to wait for Curly Bob. For some of you who don't already know, you can pick up Curly Bob with a taxi of your own instead of trailing him. Once Curly Bob is taken care of, we death warp because we are going to need an ambulance for this next trick. Paramedic is an interesting side mission in that when you start it, you can't cancel it right away. There is green text that briefs you on the importance of driving carefully when driving with patience. If you're outside of your taxi while taxi driver is active, the mission will immediately fail. With Paramedic, even when you're outside of this ambulance, you have to wait for this green text to disappear. This strange little quirk allows for a different way to dupe a mission called Paradupe, and we're about to do it for the next mission, Triads and Tribulations. We enter the mission while holding Paramedic using the bind trick mentioned before, and let go a little after seeing the blue splash screen. A few things are happening here. We are now on mission 1 because we're entering Triads and Tribulations. At the same time, Paramedic has been started. But as soon as Paramedic cancels on his own, we are then back to on mission 0, and because we are already where the mission marker would be, we enter the mission again, duping the mission. And now similarly, with taking out the laundry, we mega jump to our death and pass the mission. Now, paraduping is used very deliberately, and I'll speak on why later, but now we're going to blow fish. We're going to start Blowfish, the mission where you blow. Similar to Scam IP setup, we do a series of impressive mega jumps all the way to the dust cart. Similar to how changing the camera to top-down despawns traffic, looking behind will prevent traffic spawns, at least the ones that would be in the way. On the way to the factory, replays are played in quick succession. This is weather manipulation. The weather in GTA 3 is fixed, which means weather happens in a predictable sequence. If you start the game from the beginning, you can expect the first instance of rain to occur around the first 20 minutes of gameplay. There are exceptions to this where missions will lock the weather to be a certain way. The array for weather looks something like this, with each element being a different weather type. For each in-game hour that passes, it will go on to the next element. If you play a replay or quickly press F3 and F1 where the in-game clock reads 59, and then play the same replay a few times, we can manually cycle through the weather array, thus skipping undesirable weather types such as rain, which only serves to make driving difficult and sluggish. When at the factory, we arm the bomb right away because we don't plan on escaping through the front gate. We position ourselves instead between this incline and propane tank. After the explosion, you guessed it, we mega jump to our death. Continuing the theme of committing acts of terror to rival gangs, we head to the most fascinating part of the segment, Bomb the Base Act 1. Just watch.
We should take these Colombian.
Fascinating. Not much to speak about the second part of this mission besides the fact that you can kill all enemies while just driving a few meters in front of the initial marker. And what's your reward for shooting all the guys? Only just about the loudest cutscene ever. The next mission is Lost Request, but we will enter this mission in a very particular way. Before we get into it, this video is sponsored by me. If you like GTA 3 speedruns and would like to see records beaten live, be sure to follow me on Twitch where I regularly stream attempts. Thank you. The run that you're watching right now is a record that I set live, and everyone who was there is now cooler because of it. I mentioned not too long ago that paradupe for the mission Trials and Tribulations was deliberate. The reasoning is that performing a paradupe, for all intents and purposes, disables Paramedic forever. The same is applied to several other side missions. Taxi Driver is broken from Instapassing Scam, Vigilante is broken from Instapassing Mike Lips, which leaves us with using Firefighter as the last way of using Submission to start a mission on a rampage. One problem though, the fire truck is a little too far away from the mission marker. And so, the fastest way to start a mission with a rampage is to do something called a man dupe. A man dupe is where we attempt to start a mission and pick up a rampage at the same time with the hope that the rampage starts after we start the mission. This trick, despite it being simple in execution, is actually so bad that there's another route that avoids this trick altogether. The reasoning is that even with perfect execution, you can still fail this trick. This is because the game checks to see if you're in a mission marker every 8 frames. This is why if you walk into a mission marker, the time it takes for the mission to actually start slightly varies. It is possible to sprint through a mission marker without triggering it. We call this getting cycled. So we are presented with 2 fail scenarios. We enter the mission marker and on the very first frame, the mission starts, not giving us any time to play a replay, or we try to enter the mission marker, but when we play a replay containing the rampage starts before we can start the mission. This is the most likely fail scenario. And with some calculations, we have about a 78% chance of successfully pulling off a man dupe, even if we replicated the trick perfectly. Even though 78% seems high, we are currently 22 minutes into the run, and I forgot to mention, we have to do this trick again, in about 6 minutes, but we'll get there. Before moving on, let's quickly recap some of the core tricks and concepts. Replays can be used to enter cars faster. Replays can be used for horizontal movement, but it's limited in use because you can die easily from it. On the flip side, there is a way to die quickly. You can enter missions while on a rampage with the help of side missions such as Vigilante, Taxi Driver, Firefighter, and Paramedic. This helps us instantly pass missions and dupe missions to pass them quicker. But as a result of some of these tricks, some of the side missions are broken and can't be enabled again. And because we cannot use these side missions, we must resort to entering a mission and picking up the rampage at the same time and hoping for the best. Now back to more boring exposition. On the mission Sayonara Salvatore, you have at least 2 minutes and 30 seconds worth of downtime. Naturally, we could use this time to get weapons or set up for the assassination. Or we can just make this the most convoluted 2.5 minutes of our lives. We first start off with this neat mega jump that will land us on the overpass expressway. We will then use this lip to mega jump to this doorway. You may have guessed it, a rampage is here, and we're going to make a replay of it. We will then mega jump back to where we started to grab a car. Now, we are on Sayonara Salvatore on mission 0. We'll get to why in a second, but first, we need to glitch a car. If you're familiar with GTA, you will know that if you enter multiple cars, the cars eventually will start despawning. When we glitch or mark a car, we're making it so that the car does not despawn no matter what. We do this by blocking the driver's side door, attempt to enter it, and playing a replay as the driver is trying to get out. This will put the driver in an indefinite state of being carjacked. But we can still enter from the driver's side and driving around like it's any other car. When the in-game clock is at the start of the hour, we play the replay we created not too long ago to be on another rampage. This will serve to be the setup for the next dupe and fail. But for now, we need to park this car in a very specific spot to make sure that it's damaged but not enough for it to explode. When reaching Portland, we make another replay where Rampage is for the very last time, believe it or not. Making a mad dash to the back entrance of Luigi's Club, we patiently wait for 5:30 and then kill the mafiosos with the Molotovs. Because of where Sal is positioned and Molotov end packs being able to travel through walls, this also kills Salvatore in the process. We then make a crowd favorite mega jump from the ramp all the way to the pier and make our way to the next mission under surveillance with the Rampage timer counting down to 0. Much like the missions duped before, we die to pass this mission. Now normally, because we're in an ambulance, we would use paramedic to start the next mission with a rampage, but because paraduping trials and tribulations killed paramedic, we have no choice but to perform another mandupe. Now the only purpose of this rampage is to give us rockets to quickly pass paparazzi purge. But if you recall, we can use replays to get lots of ammos from rampages, and now we have rocket ammo for the rest of the game. When crossing this intersection, we have to drive over this cop bribe to make a replay of it. Much like rampages, we can remotely pick up cop bribes to remove wanted stars, which will serve to be useful in a few missions. With the help of rockets, silence a sneak can now be done even faster, and so can arm shortage. The next mission lives in GTA speedrunning infamy for being one of the most random missions in the category. Evidence Dash, while being an innocuous mission for others, is a living nightmare for runners. In this mission, you have to ram a bobcat to collect 6 packages. This bobcat can drive anywhere, but there are 2 distinct patterns, north and south. There are different north and south patterns, but typically north is good because you can engage with the bobcat a lot quicker than if you were to be driving away from you south. If you've gone through a driving school in San Andreas, or if you're just really enthusiastic about police chases, you may know about the pit maneuver. Lightly tapping the side of a pursuer's vehicle to spin them around and disable them. We make heavy use of this tactic as the bobcat travels very fast. Normally, we would have a 2-star wanted level during this mission, but we were able to get rid of them with the use of bribe replays. It's important that we get as many pickups as we can while the bobcat is not traveling at top speed. Once we have collected all their packages, we must explode the car. Now normally, when we have all the packages, we just find another fast car to swap with. But if you collect the last package while on foot and enter another car, the game will instruct you to explode that car instead, allowing you to save the Banshee, which is already pretty fast and already accessible. Evidence Dash is done, but the randomness is not. On Liberator, you have to find a cartel cruiser at Fort Staunton to enter a compound. And no, you will never see 4 of these on screen at once. Once we enter the compound, we use replays to prevent all the cartel members from shooting us, but we still have to kill these first 2 guys. The person we are looking for is in one of these 3 garages. Despite there being 3 garages, it's actually a 50-50 chance that the person is in either the first 2 garages or in the 3rd one. This is because the garages have 2 spawn points actually, with the first 2 garages, of course, being the fastest. In Waka Gasher, you normally have to go to the top of the multi-story in order to kill Kenji. But you can actually kill him from the first floor with just a few rocket shots. Directly above the spot is where Kenji stands. Despite there being an entire floor between Kenji and the rocket shot, the explosion is close enough to deal damage to him. Not to mention that he's also in between cars, so if the rockets don't kill him, the exploding cars definitely will. The shot is pretty easy, but the next mission is anything but. A drop in the ocean has one of the hardest tricks in the category. Before even starting the mission, you have to have weather management in order. I briefly mentioned that rain makes driving sluggish and slow, but it can also have an effect on traveling in water, as foggy and rainy weather will make huge waves that makes boating extremely slow. Once that's in order, the hard part really begins. When doing a drop in the ocean normally, you are given 2 minutes until a plane starts dropping packages. When it drops a package, you pick it up right behind it until it drops 6 packages. Though, the more packages you pick up, the more police attention you receive. But once you collect the packages, you drive to Donald Love's place and the mission is done. Seems pretty straightforward. Now, let's turn this mission into a sick memory game. Throughout the entire speedrun, we've witnessed the use of replays and picking items up remotely. You may have guessed, we are going to pick up these packages with the use of replays. The problem? Well, you don't see any roads with lines here, do you? We have to get creative on how we can ride over the exact location of each package. Missing 1 package effectively kills the run. The police gets to the package, the mission fails, you have to sit through another 2 minutes of waiting, and then you get to try again. But when we do make our very long replay, we're now racing back to Donald's place before the 6th package drops. That's when we're no longer waiting for the mission to do mission things. Immediately play the replay of us picking up the 6 packages and immediately end the mission. Overall, making for a pretty satisfying mission to watch. It's important to note that the time window for making it to the boat and making the replay is actually pretty tight. It's even tighter since we have to stop by ammunition to purchase a sniper rifle. More on that later. And now we enter the most intimidating parts of the run. The final 5 missions in this run involves a lot of dodo flying, which is often exciting for viewers as it's essentially a dodo exhibition. Grand Theft Auto, after driving to Shoreside Vale and killing the cartel in the hangar, we're presented with the Dodo. Taking off with the Dodo, which is the easy part, and landing the Dodo, which is the hard part. We still use the Dodo to land, end the mission at Donald's place, and back to the construction site to pick up the next mission bait. Normally, you would need to drive around and lure target cars to a death trap. We are just going to fly over them. After activating the second car, we can fly low to touch the dam. This is to manipulate the driving paths of the target cars. The AI will drive to the last part of the ground that you touched and will also drive to the closest road node to you, helping with quickly getting all the cars together shortly after landing. Espresso to Go has us using the Dodo to fly to Portland to the car showroom for the Banshee. This is also where the elaborate setup during Sound Hour Salvatore comes into play. When we park the marked car at a specific spot, that specific spot is where a stall will be during a mission. This is also where the sniper rifle from a drop in the ocean comes in. After destroying the first two stalls and making it to Staunton, we get out and quickly snipe the car that we marked from a distance. And because we damaged the car during Sound Hour Salvatore, the car sets on fire, and after one shot, it is set to explode after a few seconds. And there, the third stall is destroyed from a distance. You can also cross the Staunton lift bridge while it's up with the use of replays. A lot of people seem to like this trick. The reason why we're able to get across is because when a replay is used, it temporarily restores the bridge as if it were down, but only for a frame. After finishing Espresso to Go, we do a series of mega jumps to this airport hangar where we are back to flying the Dodo. This time, we will use it for the next mission, Sam. Normally, you'd have to wait until the mission timer runs down to shoot a plane and collect its packages. Yes, this game loves its packages. We instead fly over the upper part of the dam in Cedar Grove and position ourselves in a very specific spot. Now, every runner will have a different reference point for the shot, but overall it should produce the same result. Thanks to the cop bribe replay we made during Espresso to Go, we don't have to worry about any unwanted police attention. After one sketchy takeoff and flying through a bridge, we make it back to the construction site for a ransom and unlock the final mission, the exchange. Now, the final 5 missions have its fair share of risky Dodo flying, most notably on bait. It involves a few turns that you must know how to do without losing total control of your Dodo, and you have to do it multiple times in one flight. Well, on the exchange, mastering the art of quickly turning the Dodo is essential, and you only have one shot to do it. Once we make it out of the gates, we will take off and make our way to where Catalina's chopper is heading. We will then take a very specific path, flying low enough to spawn in the cartel members and quickly turning to crash land, all while not losing control of the Dodo and most importantly not flying off the platform into the water. We stall a bit by the stairs where the last cutscene trigger is. The reason why we stall here is because we want the helicopter to be in a certain position when we start this cutscene. When the helicopter is shot down, an animation will start of it exploding, losing control, and it will only end when a helicopter collides with something. In our case, once we shoot the helicopter, it will immediately hit the pillar beside it and we can go collect Maria. All this in under 1 hour.
Residents in Cedar Grove.
I hope because of this video, you're able to better understand and appreciate GTA 3 speedruns as much as I do. If you're interested in running the game, be sure to join the GTA Speedrunning Community Discord where we have guides and we'll be able to answer any questions they may have about running the game. And of course, thank you for watching.
I really do, because you're such a big, strong man, and that's just what I need. Anyway, what was I saying? I forget, but you know what it's like, don't you?
The sound of explosions shook nearby homes as people ran for cover. Several citizens were injured in the panic as gunfire was exchanged between ground forces and a helicopter circling the dam.
Yeah, we got a good view from down here in the gardens. When the copter finally got taken out, better than the fireworks on the 4th of July.